Charlie Kirk shocks a group of students when he reveals the real reason why young Americans cannot afford homes in the modern day. Guys, this is going to be a good one. I'll be honest, this one, it really hits home for me because I look around at this insane housing market and it's just unbelievable. It makes me think about, how am I going to do this? You know, how am I going to get married, ultimately have kids, raise them in a decent setting without constantly scrounging around just to be able to put food on the table? It really is a scary thought. I've seen houses go from about maybe $200,000 about 5 years ago to being well over $500,000 now, and with a high interest rate instead of a low one. It's just sick, honestly. Something's really wrong with that, and I would even argue criminal. It's just not right. So we're gonna get right into it, guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun, definitely relevant and important topic. But first, everybody, do me a huge solid and help me out here. Like our video, share it around, and yes, if you are new, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel so we can keep delivering you guys this great content. And for those of you who are coming back, thank you so much and welcome again. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian. Let's get into the video.
Hey, Charlie. So I am, as a young adult right now in America, I'm looking right now towards like my future, and I'm really having a hard time really seeing myself being able to do the same things like my parents have done, such as buy a house at a young age and whatnot. So do you think there's going to be any change in in the housing market from the high interest rates and big companies and investors buying all types of properties and just renting them out to just Americans in general?
It's a great question. So 4 years ago, the average income to be able to buy a home in this country was $59,000 a year. Now it requires $106,000 a year to buy a home, and it's probably even more than that here in Vegas. Is my guess.
Unbelievable.
You have been robbed by the DC political class, and then big corporations like BlackRock come in and purchase these homes and then rent them back to you. This is one of the reasons why I personally support President Donald Trump's candidacy. This was not the case when he was president. Home ownership was in your grasp, wages were going up, young people saw their livelihood increasing, and Joe Biden has destroyed all of that. It's just a fact. Just look at the numbers. The last 4 years, he has obliterated the ability for you to be able to own a home. So, yeah, we should say that multi-trillion dollar corporations like BlackRock cannot come in and buy homes and rent them back to you.
Amen.
In fact, I want three very basic things for every one of you. I don't care about your politics. I want you to be able to get married, have kids, and own a home. Those three things should be in the very basic social contract for Gen Z, and that's my message. And I pray we can restore that.
Many people argue that it's criminal what these large asset management firms are doing, including me. I do want to make one point that I think is very important. At the end of the day, yes, Donald Trump is obviously a far better president than Joe Biden, and I do think he'll do better should he come in this November, and I hope he does. But let's make no mistake here. Republicans print just as much money as Democrats, if not more. Donald Trump likely will have printed more money than Joe Biden by the end of his term. And I point that out not to bash Trump or say you shouldn't support them or anything like that. I just do it to say that we should critically analyze our own side too. And by the way, I know I'm gonna get a lot of angry people for saying what I say, okay? But it is what it is, guys. I'm real. I'm gonna give you honest analysis. We all know that the right is better than the left. I think anybody watching this channel for the most part knows that. But that doesn't mean that we aren't without issues and that those should be addressed. That's all I'm saying. So, I don't know, it's a bit of an unorthodox comment. Curious to see how you guys receive it. So I guess we'll find out in the comments. Back to the clip.
Exactly. Do you think that anytime in the near future that like any changes in the housing market are going to take place?
Say that again.
Do you think
housing prices will probably go up before the end of the year because interest rates are going to be cut 3 times before the election? The Fed just announced yesterday interest rates are going down, so you guys are even more screwed. In fact, you guys right now should want like interest rates to go up, because then you might actually see a collapse in housing prices. You guys could swoop in. The Fed, in my personal opinion, I have no evidence of this except outside speculation, they're lowering interest rates to try to get Joe Biden reelected, is what they're doing.
But wait, there's more. Real quick, that's an interesting theory Charlie posits about the Fed purposely lowering interest rates to help Joe Biden. One thing that it kind of reminds me of is how the news about the COVID jab being available to the masses was not released until just after voting was done for the 2020 election. Isn't that convenient? Back to more housing talk with Charlie Kirk.
So I'm just wondering, since you were saying that housing is a problem for a lot of Americans, there's, as far as I've seen, there's kind of two right-wing housing policies, which is one, we should reduce, we should reduce...
Low income? Yeah.
No, I'm saying you should reduce regulations on housing, allow more housing to be built, and two is sort of that we should do government-funded suburbia type stuffs. What's your opinion on how we should solve the housing crisis?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we have to stop creating cheap money. So the more money you have in the money supply, money has to find a home. And money finds home in tangible assets because there's only so many tangible assets. So I'll prove it to you. This is why gold, silver, copper, the stock market, and homes are priced more, but they're actually not worth more than they were 4 years ago. So the price of it goes up more because we're creating $8 trillion every 4 years artificially and boosting the money supply. So we have to get federal spending under control, something that Republicans don't want to do and Democrats don't want to do. And the Federal Reserve is just intent on continually pumping in cheap money into the market. So that's number one. Number two, at least in Arizona, we have to take back federal land from the federal government and give it to states, and we have to try to build out horizontally and not as much vertically. So I don't know if that would be popular around here, but in Arizona especially, the federal government controls actually the majority of the state of Arizona. So do you have a thought on that?
The one, I guess, thing about building out horizontally instead of vertically is that there's been a couple of theories posited around. I'm not sure if you might have seen them. It's that building out horizontally essentially means that the tax revenue in in municipalities ends up being not enough to pay for the services you're providing.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends on what community and what the income level is, right? And what your social service demand is. But I think we would all agree that there is a cost to hyper-urbanization. And hyper-urbanization is very expensive. I think you get very bad politics for it, but you don't have to agree with that. You get very dense populations. You get hyper-radical ideas. You get a lot of homelessness and a lot more crime. I think that every single person in this audience should be able to own property, have kids if they want, and get married if they want. Those things are increasingly out of reach for a generation.
Amen. Also, this idea that horizontal housing is somehow inefficient or terrible or unaffordable, that is such left-wing propaganda, and I just refuse to buy into it. If you look at the most expensive places per square foot in the country, they're pretty much always in big cities. Yet we have all this talk about how we need more high-density housing. It's going to make the prices fall down because it'll be more affordable. Really? Because I haven't seen that in practice. If you look at a more rural or suburban area, you pay less money for a bigger house almost every time. So it doesn't even make sense to start with. Additionally, costs aside, I really don't think living in an urban environment is healthy for the human spirit. Honestly, you just got all this noise, this buzzing all over, bad smells, too many people. It's just exhausting. I've even heard stories of people who lived in urban housing for all or most of their life. Then they go and live in some rural area not that long after that, and they literally can't sleep because it's too quiet. They start putting background noises to help them relax. Think about that. Essentially, they don't have gunshots and other bad noises going around to help lull them to sleep. You know, the gunshots, the sirens, the people screaming, the stores getting robbed. You gotta have all that background noise. It really makes you think.
It's not like, I don't think we have to overcomplicate the housing situation. I think we'd also agree on this, that if you are an asset manager with assets under management, with over $100 billion asset under management, you should not be able to buy single family homes and rent them back to people. So that's a huge problem, is Blackstone is coming in, purchasing single family homes and renting them back. I think that's a huge problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, when Charlie said Blackstone right there, for a moment, I thought he was having his Donald Trump, Tim Apple moment.
I used to say, Tim, you got to start doing it over here, and you really have. I mean, you've really put a big investment in our country. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
But I looked it up. Blackstone is a separate company from BlackRock. So kind of interesting. That's something I'll have to dig into, and maybe some of you will too. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really hope you enjoyed the video. What do you think about the housing crisis that youth are going through? What do you think about BlackRock, Blackstone? I want to hear it all. So comment below, guys. We want to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. God bless.